So how is it going, Dank Division? Danked in here, and it's time we finally talk about some of the guns that we've seen over the course of the trailers, as well as the gameplay. For a little bit of a nostalgic edge, I thought I would throw on some Modern Warfare 3 footage that I found sitting in my old vault. Now granted, you're probably wondering why the hell is the bottom left corner blacked out. I used to use my real name when I played this game. So, you'll have to forgive me, but I have to have that blacked out corner so I don't have to individually just black out my name. So more importantly, let's dive in. We're going to go in this particular order. ARs, an LMG, SMGs, 2 tac rifles that I caught on to, a shotgun, and 3 pistols. That is going to be the main focal point of this video, so let's dive in. So let's start off with the one that has everyone kind of staring, and that of course is just the gun that we see falling out of the player's hands very early on in the trailer. Everyone's saying it. ACR. Now that does beg the question. Is that going to be actually the ACR this time around? Or is it going to end up being the Kilo like it was with Modern Warfare 2019? That we don't know, but a lot of people seem to be pointing in the direction of the ACR, and if that is the case, I am hoping that it lives up to the ACR of the days of old. Now, another gun, and this one's no shocker. This gun's pretty much been in almost every Modern Warfare variant to date. That, of course, being the M4A1. Now, that's no shocker. Let's face it, we've seen that in Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, Modern Warfare 2019. It's no surprise that that gun's coming back. It's kind of like the jack of all trades, master of, well, none, that we all know and love. Another gun that if you happen to be watching the game, you happen to catch on to the Ram 7. And I'm going to use the name Ram 7 because a lot of you who played Modern Warfare 2019 are going to know it by that name. Or, as I might call it, the BAL from, well, oh, I don't know, from Modern Warfare 2. This gun, high rate of fire, low recoil, a little bit low on the damage, but that still made it that much more beautiful. If that is exactly what we're seeing on screen, God help us all. Now, this one should come as no surprise, as we have seen the M16 over and over and over again, but yeah, the M16 did make an appearance in some of the footage that we've seen for the next Modern Warfare, and it's no surprise, let's face it, it is a go-to burst rifle that has been used over the course of the Black Ops games as well as the Modern Warfare games. Now here's the gun that we have all been praying after we had the FN SCAR from Modern Warfare 2019 be such a letdown that we wanted that conversion. It looks like the SCAR L is making a return. And let's face it, the ACR and the SCAR L were 2 guns that if you played Modern Warfare 3, you were guaranteed to go through at least one phase with each gun going, this is the best gun in the game, and no one can convince me otherwise. Now let's keep that kind of hype going while we have the old Modern Warfare name rolling off the tongue, the FAMAS. Yes, that is right. In that footage buried somewhere was the FAMAS, and that begs the question, are we going to see only the 3-round burst variant? Or are we going to see something that actually is fully automatic and lives up to the old FAMAS? And let's face it, the FAMAS was a deadly weapon. There was a reason that was one of the last things you unlocked in Modern Warfare 3 and other varying games, because it was an absolute powerhouse to be reckoned with and pissed off so many people. Now, as we continue on, we have pretty much one of the most iconic Soviet-era weapons. That, of course, being the AK-47. What COD game? No, fuck that. What video game that's set after the creation of the AK wouldn't be complete without the AK? Let's face it. Battlefield has it. GTA has, well, it. Every game pretty much has the AK-47 in it. And it's no surprise that the next Call of Duty is going to feature that. Now let's continue onward. The AUG. Now, when we think of the AUG, I do not think of the SMG variant. I immediately think of the Steyr AUG. You know, the one that we saw in the original Black Ops. The one that you can recreate through conversions in Modern Warfare 2019. That little beauty, if you pay attention to the footage, you'll occasionally catch little glimpses of that gun. Now, The one brand that I didn't really see in Modern Warfare 2019, and I'm hoping that what I've seen is true, that of course being that there's images of the HK-53, the 33, and the HK-G3. The G3 assault rifle we haven't seen in a long while. And while it wasn't exactly my favorite from the original Modern Warfare, it was definitely something that I found entertaining. Now, this is a gun that I genuinely want to get my hands on. That, of course, being what it looks like, the Honey Badger. Let's face it, when we play Call of Duty Ghosts, love or hate Call of Duty Ghosts, a lot of you can agree that the Honey Badger was a beautiful weapon. Having that integrated suppressor and being able to pretty much mow down people without having to have an attachment for the suppressor made this thing a god-tier weapon amongst players. Now, let's talk about the LMG that we see. Now, there is talk that this kind of looks like the Negev, which, let's put it this way, I could be completely wrong or I could be completely right, because this bad boy, if it is that weapon, it's been in service since the 90s and has a lot of variants to toy with, and seeing as how Modern Warfare 2019 loved to play with its variants, that wouldn't surprise me in the least, because let's face it, this weapon not only has a 5.56 cartridge, but also can have a 7.62 cartridge. So, you know, the decisions almost become endless if you're able to customize that LMG to that level. Now let's talk SMGs. Now, it's no shock that this gun's coming back. The MP7. Let's put it this way. There is a reason why some people are still using the MP7 in Warzone, and when it comes to Modern Warfare 2019, as well as CODs of the past, the MP7 has always been that perfect, well-rounded gun, beautiful mobility, great at range, and able to just mow people down. Now, speaking of classic weapons, it seems like most of the SMGs that we have seen are classics. The next one, of course, being the AK-74U. Now, that does beg the question of whether or not the AK-74U is going to be a variant of the AK-47, that it's a conversion, or if it's going to be its own standalone gun, similar to how Cold War did it. We'll have to wait and see. Now, the next weapon, now this is a classic. The MP5. Now, let's face it, day one of Warzone, a lot of people discovered the MP5 was overpowered. People went into Cold War, the MP5 was overpowered. You go back to any of the old CODs where the MP5 existed, it was always one of those guns that you tended to see in people's hands, mowing people down and being that nice little well-rounded SMG. So it's no shock that we see it again going into Modern Warfare 2. So let's talk about the next one, of course, the P90. Now, the P90 didn't really get a lot of love in Modern Warfare 2019. Fast rate of fire, but ridiculous recoil, and when you can manage to get the recoil down, the damage output was so lackluster that pretty much every other gun outranked it, and even back in the day, the P90 was not exactly everyone's first choice of weapon, so hopefully going into this game, they'll do something with it. Now, the Bison. You can call it the PP90 or whatever I used to call it back in the Modern Warfare 3 days. It has had many names over the time. The Bison is what I'm going to call it for now, but that gun was spotted in the gameplay, and let's hope they go with the Cold War style, where this thing actually had some viability to it, that it didn't feel like you were carrying pretty much this heavy, bulky SMG that was borderline useless like the Modern Warfare 2019 variant. And then, of course, we have the one that we see head first, that there's no way you could miss this. That, of course, being the Vector. For those of you who don't know what I mean by the Vector, and you only played Modern Warfare 2019, the Fennec. This thing was known. In real life, a lack of recoil was pretty much its thing, and just mows people down. The lack of recoil makes this thing a force to be reckoned with and puts people down into the ground. The only issue is, from the gameplay that we've already seen of this gun, the recoil pattern pretty much shoots it almost borderline into the sky, and we can only hope that with some attachments we can take that recoil and make it closer and closer to its real-life counterpart. Now let's talk about the two tac rifles that I caught on to. That, of course, being the M24. Now, for those of you who don't know what the M24 is, and you happen to play Modern Warfare 2019, the SPR. Yes, this beautiful bolt-action rifle was notorious for being a hell of a weapon in Modern Warfare 2019, as well as every game that has had it. It has been a decent contender in its class. Now, the next tac rifle I'm going to be talking about, it either really sucks or is really good. And it's funny because I'm using it in Modern Warfare 3 in this gameplay. The MK14, or to Modern Warfare 2019 players, the EBR. Now, the EBR got overshadowed real fast by the DMR, and the MK14 was always a decent weapon because, let's face it, we all love ourselves an M1 Garand, and we love the idea of having a semi-automatic weapon that can level people into the ground. But the problem is that almost every time you get a decent weapon that's semi-automatic, it almost gets nerfed into the ground immediately. Now, let's move on to the shotgun that we, of course, see. That, of course, being the M4 shotgun. God damn, do I love me a good shotgun. Now, I'm hoping... Now, granted, the footage that we did see from the reveal was an alpha footage, so I am hoping that they do not lock dismemberment behind a paywall. I want shotguns specifically. I'm looking at the M4 shotgun. I want it to absolutely decimate people. I want it to blow someone's leg clean off. Hell, I want to have it if you point it at the back of someone's head. I want to see brains splattered against a brick wall and just be absolutely brutal. Now, before I dive into the pistols, let's also talk about two launchers that blink and you miss it. Now, the first, of course, looks like a Pila, which, not gonna lie, it's not really a surprise. That's kind of been a go-to that we always see. Granted, does it always go by that name? Not necessarily. But it's like a mainstay. You're always going to get that launcher and, of course, the other one that we see, the RPG-7. Let's face it, whenever you're having a video game that takes place in some varying area of the Middle East, there's always going to be the AK-47, there's always going to be, for some reason, the PKM, and there will always, always, always be the RPG. Why? Because it's just synonymous, it's iconic. It's everyone's go-to dick-headed weapon when you feel like dealing with the camper who's been sitting in a corner all day. There's nothing like an RPG to the forehead. Now, more importantly, let's talk about the three pistols that we happen to see. The first of which, let's face it, this pistol has been used for well over a century now. The 1911. Yes, this cult classic, get it, cult classic, is pretty much in almost every single Call of Duty game with very few exceptions, dating as far back as the original Call of Duty and still being used even in futuristic games as a DLC weapon. This gun has been featured across the board, and the funny part of it being that it has 3 different versions of itself in the current Warzone, and the fact that it's going to be coming, of course, to the next Modern Warfare is no surprise. Now, the next pistol that we see, whether or not it's going to go by the actual name this time, or if it's going to get a BS name this time, the Glock 17. Nice little 9mm pistol that, let's face it, there's always an argument between if a 1911 is better or the Glock is better. I'll let you guys argue about that in the comment section. I'm not one for going about that. But having the Glock 17 now adds a different level to the pistols. Now, the third and last one, and this is where I kind of put a question mark. I keep looking at a pistol and wondering if it's the CZ P10C pistol. Now, last time we saw a CZ pistol, correct me if I'm wrong, was the original Black Ops, which was the CZ75. Now, whether or not this is going to be the actual pistol that we see, or if it's going to go under a fake name like we have seen in the past because copyright is a bitch, we will have to wait and see. So in that comment section down below, I want you to let me know. Out of these guns that you've just heard me say, which one are you the most excited for? If there is a gun that I haven't said, or even better yet, if there's a gun that you haven't seen yet and you're questioning it, and you want to see in the game, I want to see that comment section down below also talk about that. What are some guns that haven't been seen in a while in COD, or might possibly have never been seen in COD, that deserve the spotlight? If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to click that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment down below because I love the conversations I have with all of you guys. And all of you out there, follow us on our socials, and you guys have a wonderful day, night, whatever you're doing, do it wholeheartedly. And of course, as always, this is Dank Dan, signing off.
Get them to hit that subscribe button, Dank. It's the only way we can figure out the numbers.
15.
What do the numbers mean, Dank? We're wasting valuable time.